Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is you're coming from. Thanks for joining. So excited today to be here with Callie Riley, and she has her Instagram account, which I'm going to put all the information, all the links. You guys know how it works down below, but her Instagram account is CJ Riley. So this is my interview with her. And just as a little bit of a backstory, Callie is a member of the LGBTQ plus community. She works as a nurse, so bravo on that. We need you. And Callie is married to Ashley and is a mother of twin autistic children, and they live with their family in Colorado. So thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And
I
I'm
love the
looking forward
dance.
to this conversation. I'm
Yes,
excited.
absolutely. Well, like I said, I'm very appreciative. I know everybody has busy lives and schedules and families, so there's a lot of things going on. So I'm appreciative of your time for sure. And as always, I like to say, I know a lot about your Instagram account, but we can never really know where somebody is right now until we know where they came from. So if you wouldn't mind, give me a little bit of your story.
Sure. I was actually born and raised in Arizona in a very small town, really small town.
Okay.
Um, I have three sisters, and I'm the youngest by like 8.5 years. So I'm like the baby, but not the baby at the same time.
Yeah.
So we moved from that small town to like Phoenix, Arizona, and that's where I did like high school, and then I went to U of A for college. And then I actually graduated. I went back to that really small town, and that's where I graduated from college
Okay.
to be a nurse. And then I moved to Phoenix, and that's where I met my wife, Ashley. We can go into that later. But then we were together for a long time. We decided to have kids. I know we'll dive all into this later and all of the questions that we're going to ask, but we moved to Colorado for a job opportunity for her, and it was the greatest thing. And now we're here. We love the like diverse culture, and we love all of the weather, which I never experienced in Arizona.
Okay.
So yeah, we really like it here, and we can't wait to just see where life takes us.
That's awesome. My wife and I really want to plan a trip to Colorado. I've been in Colorado twice, but it's only been the airport. So it's been for a layover. So I haven't really spent time in Colorado, but
It's
I
a
have
big
a lot of
airport.
friends. Yeah, I have a lot of friends that have spent time in Colorado. They live in Colorado. They love Colorado. So how long have you all actually been there?
We moved here in January of 2018, so a little over
Okay.
2 years.
Kind of right in that zone where like it's not new, but you haven't been there
Yeah,
long term yet. So you're still,
yeah,
I'm sure, like discovering new things, right?
yeah. It's really great. It's been super awesome. I think the biggest thing was worried about moving away from my family because I've never lived anywhere than Arizona, but
Yeah.
it's like a short hour flight. The flights are cheap, so I still get to see my family a lot. So that's great.
Yeah. Being
Yeah,
in the Midwest, the rest of the country is strange to me in the layout. Like I think in my head, Arizona and Colorado, oh, they're really far away from each other, but they're not. They're
no,
not
they're
at all. So
not.
it's really, I think it's because the weather, at least the perception is so different. It's like, oh, Arizona, very hot and dry. Colorado, it snows 24/7 there. Like that's the perception. So it's like, how can they be close to each other? But they actually are really close.
They are very close, and yeah, it's supposed to like hail today, and it's May.
Naturally, right? Like
May
nothing's wrong
20
with the environment.
something,
Everything's fine.
22nd. Yeah, the
Yeah,
weather's weird.
right. So thank you for that. Learning a little bit about your backstory personally. And as I said in the opening, you identify as a member of the LGBTQ plus community. Love that hoodie that you're rocking. Love it. Yeah, right. Hoodie. We were talking about before hoodie
Yeah,
life, right?
city
I
life.
could just live in a hoodie
Yeah,
all the time.
very much.
What was that, process like for you? When did you come out as a member of the community, and just kind of like that process for you, kind of growing up?
Sure. I came out in high school. It was like my senior year, and I was on and off with obviously girls that my
Yeah,
mom and nobody really knew about. We weren't
yeah,
really open at that point. And I decided to just tell my mom. I did grow up in a Mormon community, so it was really difficult for me, even though my mom and I were not super religious at the time. I knew where she was rooted, and I was
yeah.
worried that that would be a problem. So I did come out to her my senior year of high school, and she didn't really say much other than, "I'm always going to love you, but like I need some time to process this." And I was like, "Okay, fair. I'll take that answer."
Yeah.
And then as I mentioned earlier, I have three sisters who then she kind of was like, this is where you guys come in and you guys handle this. So my
Yeah.
sisters came in and they were super wonderful, and it gave her time to process everything. I think she couldn't have done it better for not having a response, rather than firing things that maybe wouldn't have been
Yeah.
helpful or appropriate at the time. So my sisters came into the picture and we talked, and it really was kind of not anything that we addressed after that. And then a year later, my mom and I my mom's like my best friend because I'm much younger than my sister. So we kind of had this unique mom, but best friend relationship.
Yeah.
And she just kind of like dove right into it. Like once I think she struggled with me not meeting the right person, but I think that would have happened no matter what gender I was with. Um, and then once I found the right person, she was like, oh, like this is great. Like it was just fine. Um, and yeah, and everyone in my family is super supportive. That's a huge, I know that's a very fortunate thing for me. That's not across for everybody. So I know that it is a huge, I'm very, very thankful for my family. They have been super supportive and have never once made me feel like I wasn't loved or wanted or needed or any of that stuff. So I have a great support system, which is amazing.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for going through that. I was wondering because I didn't know this story, so I was wondering where that was going to go. And you mentioned like the Mormon community, and I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
mean,
so
even
great to hear.
my grandma works at a temple and is very religious and
Yeah,
never batted an eye. She's one of, I could cry about it because I didn't want to tell her.
beautiful.
I would rather her not know and love me than not love me. And that was a huge thing for me. And my mom was kind of told her without telling me and was like, she's fine. She doesn't care. Like, it's okay. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Like,
Wow,
it's just a huge relief to have for her to be able to step outside of that and love me unconditionally is really big. So
that's that's incredible. I love hearing that. And just talking about this one little thing and not the rest of your life or making assumptions, but like that's incredible. I'm so happy for you that you had that experience. I have known a lot of people that have had the exact opposite experiences where they've been shunned by their family or had to go through really kind of crazy things with their family just personally. So I'm so happy that you were able to have that with your family and have that kind of good relationship with them. So that's awesome. So you mentioned Ashley, until you met the right person, right?
yeah,
Everything's up in the air until you meet the right person.
it is.
So tell me a little bit about that. What was that journey like? Like, how did you two meet? And for you personally, when did you know, like, okay, this is my person?
Honestly, it's really cheesy, but like the second we went on a blind date. We met on a blind date. We had a mutual friend. I was still actually in nursing school. It was the summer before my last semester of school. So I was living in Phoenix to just kind of like escape the small town life because there's nothing to do there. And she had just moved. She went to school in Spokane at Gonzaga, and she
Oh,
had
okay.
just graduated. She played soccer there and she got a job in Arizona. She did have an aunt, a family member that lived there that she was going to go stay with. And she actually started working with one of my really good friends at the time. And so we went on a blind date, and then the rest was history. We went to Barnes and Noble at a coffee shop. We got coffee, and
Good time.
yeah, we pretty much spent every day in the summer together. I went back to school for 5, 6 months until I was done. And then, typical lesbian U-Haul, I moved in with her right after. And
So, a couple
history.
questions.
Sure.
Barnes and Noble date, phenomenal. My wife and I, when the pandemic's not going on, especially early in our relationship, we used to do that. We would go to Barnes and Noble and have dates. So, couple questions. Number one, do you remember what you ordered slash ate or drank at Barnes and Nobles during that date?
Yes, I did eat nothing, but
Okay.
I ordered what she ordered. She ordered first.
Oh,
She got
okay.
just a black iced coffee, and I said I'll have the same. And then I paid for it, and I actually have been drinking that since.
There you go. Talk about inspiration.
I know.
And then Barnes and Noble. Why Barnes and Noble? Are you both kind of book nerds? Like, was it
No,
just a mutual
she is not a
place?
book nerd. She's not a
Okay,
book nerd. I
I'm
think
not either, but my wife is.
it was a middle ground because we were
Okay.
kind of traveling from two different places. It was like an outdoor mall type thing with
Mhm.
there was coffee. I think the real
Yeah,
thing is we went for coffee.
there was coffee.
Through coffee. Yeah.
Essential, right? I'm like, yeah, coffee. It's early in the morning
Coffee.
here.
Like
Coffee's
my second
essential.
cup.
Yeah, we know the
And
game.
it's only 8:14 here.
Yeah, so I'm on my second, and it's after 10 here. So we both
Mm.
definitely get that. So, you kind of explain the upbringing, coming out, meeting your partner. You start your life together. When did you two decide, hey, we want to have children? Like, let's start a family together.
I think I have 10 nieces and nephews. So I've always had a lot. I've been around a lot of kids.
Yeah,
She's actually an only child and has like one and two now cousins that are like very distant in age from her.
yeah,
So I think she just kind of knew just with my involvement with all of that. And we talked about it early on, like we want kids, and it was very well known that I wanted to carry them, that she didn't, it didn't really matter to her.
yeah,
She wanted kids, but the whole carrying them factor was
yeah.
not a big deal for her. And when I met her, I was actually in the middle. I did a couple of egg donations, so I think she knew from the beginning that it was going to be something, and we knew we wanted a family. It just was the right time and the right place and all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome. So how old are you have twins, as I said in the beginning, Hunter and Leo. So how old are they?
they are 5. They just turned 5 in February.
Congratulations, that's amazing.
Mhm. I know, big
And
5.
crazy, right? Like the time just flies.
Insane.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So couple really important things I want to touch on. Number one,
Sure.
you talk about it on your channel. Hunter and Leo are both autistic. If you don't mind, tell me about a little bit about that process, the process of, going through that discovery and what that was like for you personally or your family or, however you kind of viewed that.
Sure. Um, it's an interesting story. I feel like everyone's story is a little bit different. I
Absolutely.
think
Yeah.
with my medical background, I was more in tune to kind of the differences that really I only saw in my son, because
Yeah.
girls present very differently, and I didn't really have as strong of an incline to it like I did with my son. But they, at their 18, like they developed physically fine, walking, crawling, moving, all of that stuff. And then like by 18 months, they just really weren't saying anything. There's no mom, no babble, no, but
Yeah.
like nothing. And so they were like, well, at their 2-year appointment, like if still nothing, we'll go through a process of possibly getting you a referral. So then we moved. So we moved in January, and they turned 2 in February. So we went to a new nurse practitioner, and she honestly looked at me and she's like, they're your kids regardless. Like whether you get the appointment or not, whether you get a diagnosis or not, it's the timing is key. And I think that was a big deal for me, for her saying like, it is what it is, and you're going to take home the same kids regardless. So just why don't we set this up? Honestly, it takes a while, which it did. So we got a referral at their second birthday, and we did not get a diagnosis until a month before their third birthday. So it took 11 months to see a developmental pediatrician, because there's not enough of them. So it took us 11 months to get a diagnosis. And fortunately, in the state of Colorado, we were able to start like PT, OT, and speech in like the interim while we waited, because that's
Okay.
like a year of
Yeah.
lag of nothing.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, PT, OT, and speech were not, it was really difficult for them. It didn't really help. Not that it didn't help them, but it was really hard for them, and it was really hard for me. And it just wasn't something that clicked for them. For every family, I think it's different. But once we got the diagnosis, they were 3. And then for early intervention here in Colorado, we, at the age of 3, they transitioned them to preschool. So we actually
Okay.
put them in preschool at like in March, like right after their third birthday. And they have been in preschool ever since. So they've been in preschool for like 2.5 years almost.
Yeah.
And then because preschool is only like 3 hours, we looked into other therapies that we could do for them. And we came across this ABA, or applied behavioral analysis, which I can't speak the volume that this therapy has done for them. They're still in it now. So we've been doing it for almost 2 years now. And they don't ever stop talking. They don't ever shut up. But I don't always understand them. We obviously still really, 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 really struggle with communication, but they have a voice and they sing and they talk and they play. And I'm really excited to see where they go from here. But it's definitely difficult. It's a challenge. It's hard work. They work really, really hard. They do a lot of therapy and do school, and they actually graduate to kindergarten. So they're done with preschool in May and move on
Nice.
to kindergarten. But that was a process of their diagnosis. Um, it was very atypical just having two of them, and they're so different
Yeah.
that it was very mind blowing to me. Like they're both autistic, but they are textbook different. There's nothing about them is the same, and even in their presentation. That's why I didn't know if Hunter was autistic at first, because she was very, very unique in the way that the characteristics that she portrayed that I didn't, I might be a nurse, but like I don't study autism. So I had no clue.
Yeah.
I had no clue. This was a very, very different world for me. And so I've had to do lots of research, but here we are.